So in this video tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use Adobe Dimensions to do the 3D render on your new package design. Again, a caveat on this, I have to tell you, Dimension uses a lot of memory and a lot of computational power. And if you're working on a laptop or a desktop that doesn't have a huge amount of memory on it, you're going to be very frustrated. So in the previous videos, I showed you how to do a 3D render just using Photoshop, and that might be your best bet. But if you want to give this a try, I highly recommend doing it. Understanding how to work with dimensions is always a great skill to have. Now, I'm going to give you just enough information to be able to get the job done here. But if you do have the time, it's worth your effort to kind of do a little exploration in Adobe Dimensions too. But like I said, I'll show you the tools you need to get the assignment done here. So before we even open Dimensions, what you want to do is a couple things. First of all, I'm going to open my layers here. You need to know and remember what size your box is. So I'm going to unlock this and click on it. You can see here up at the top, my box is 7.75 by 12. And then if I come over here and unlock my side panel, you can see here, this is going to be 2.5 by 12. And it's important because what we're going to do is we're going to use one of the standard presets for a box in Dimensions, but you're going to be able to customize it to get your exact dimensions on here. So before we get going, and one of the nice things about Adobe being a monopoly, as it were, we are able to completely copy all your artwork here into the Adobe library. And then when you open up Dimensions, you'll have your artwork there waiting for you. So what you want to do, go ahead and open your libraries here. And I'm going to unlock the front page here. And I'm just going to select everything. And I'm just going to drag it into, drag it into, it's doing it, sorry. There it is, and you can call this the front of the package if you want. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and lock that, unlock my side panel, grab this, everything here, just drag that in as well. And we can call this the side if you want. Now I'll show you one other thing here too. You can do it side by side in Dimensions. You can also, if I unlock everything here, drag everything in here. The reason I tend to do it piece by piece is sometimes in Dimension it doesn't completely line up perfectly. I'll just call this complete box here. Now here's the thing, if for extra credit you have done a back and the other side on here, one of the things about Dimensions, you are able to do the entire box in 3 dimensions, 360 degrees. So if you want to do that for your render, you can do that also. So I've got these loaded into my libraries. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to Dimension. And for Adobe Dimension, we're going to do Create New. And this is the workspace. Let me make it a little larger here so we can see it. So you'll see you have the grid here. Let's talk on the far left. You have, I'm going to close this here for now. No, I'll leave it open. Here are your tools over here. These allow you to move. The selection tool allows you to select whatever objects. Now we're only doing a box in here. Magic wand, and again, for all of these, if you hover over them, it will tell you what the tool does if you forget. The second group down here is allows you to move and place your objects in the scene, and we'll go over that. You can, and then zoom tool and the hand tool. And then what you'll see up here, starter assets. And these are things that are preloaded into Dimension. There's some basic shapes here, and then there's some preloaded models in here, and we're going to use one of these. And you can see them down here, and if I scroll down, so they have quite a few that are already loaded in there. Now these are all object files. It would be .obj. And you can actually find some, and I'll show you. You can actually find some in Adobe as well. And when I get to the bottom here, I'll show you that. So then we have materials. So we're designing boxes, so you can decide whether you want to do like a matte finish or a glossy finish on it. But if you're doing packaging for something in plastic or metal, those are here. You can also see there's wood, whole bunch of different textures that you can put on there. Substance material too, you can see different types of wood. Here's cardboard, that's probably what we're going to use. And then you can see there's just a whole bunch of them down here. Lighting design, which we'll get to, and then lighting in your environment. And then here are some background images that you can use. These are kind of preset in here. So there's a couple tabletops or floor tops in here. I'll show you how to use them, but as far as creating a portfolio piece, I don't think you really need to do that. And sometimes it's better to just have a plain background on here. But if you do want to do that, everyone in the business knows what these images are, know their presets in Adobe. So when I get to the bottom here, here's some backgrounds too, checkers. Personally, if you're trying to show off your graphic design, I don't think putting your design on polka dots is going to help you out much. And then there's some other elements. But you'll notice down here at the bottom, it says Browse Adobe Stock. And if you click on that, it will take you to, these are additional object files that you could download and use. Now with your Adobe subscription, you get 10 free Adobe stock images. Those can be these. So if you were designing, say, truck graphics, you could download this as well. Or if you want to find a different tabletop image, you can come down here and check out tabletop. So if you don't want to use one of the presets in here, you can always create your find another one in here. But like I said, for what we're doing, just having a plain white background is going to be fine on here. So how do we start on here? Oh, just going over the tools. So these are your tools down there, and then up here you'll have the scene, which is going to be the environment and the camera angle. We'll get to that in a minute. Actions, we'll go over that as well. And then properties are here as well. One of the first things I think you want to do, though, when you get started, come up here to a File drop-down menu and do Document Settings. And then you want to come over here to Properties. And what you want to do is change this. Now, default in dimension for the canvas is in pixels. You could leave that. I'm going to go ahead and change it to inches because now you can see our canvas is, a little under 11, a little, basically 14.25 by 10.5, a little bit more than that. Here's the important thing. For the scene units, it's going to be set in centimeters. And we want to change that to inches. And the reason for that is you've done your layout with your box in inches. And so what we're going to do is choose one of the preset models here and adapt it for your design in here. So I'll show you how to do that. So I'm going to start with one of their preloaded models in here. I'm going to use the tall box to start, and I'm going to double click on that. And it's going to place it in here. Now, obviously, that's not the right size or shape for my box, but just to show you some of the controls around here, you can manually adjust the size on this box by going to the little squares on here. But we're going to want to make sure our sizes are completely accurate. Now you'll also see on the little orbits here, you can rotate this to get an angle on here if you want. Probably don't want to use those two, but the one down here will allow you to rotate it around and get a different angle on here. But like I said, we need to make sure that this is accurate to my box design. So I'm going to click on the background, or actually click on the box here. And this should allow me to enter, almost did 7.75 by 12 by 2.5. And that should give me the accurate dimensions of my box here. And again, you can rotate this around however you want on here. You can move it back and forth too if you want to make it smaller. We can move it back into the scene a little bit more on here. So now that we've got the model on here, I'm going to rotate down or roll down here. Now, here's where you can apply different materials to it. We can, if you want, do a matte finish on here, which is what I'm probably going to want to do. Or you could do something, they call it plastic, but that's going to kind of give you more of an approximation of a glossy box. So actually, you know what? That might be better. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to put my graphics on this box. The default color on these is going to be this gray color. You'll see it up here under properties. It says base color. If you click on that, I'm going to move that up to white because I want to make sure my graphics aren't grayed out when I put them on there. And so we've got our material down here. You can also come down here. If you wanted to do cardboard, you could click on that and do cardboard. Not really loving that. I'm going to stick with my glossy. So I just hit Command Z to go back to it. So if you want to experiment with some of these different materials on here, it may not work for this project, but then you'll know where they are. And before we get down to lighting and down here, I think what I want to do is start adding my box graphics on here. So if you come up here at the very top and the little arrow here where it says starter assets, if you click on that, here you'll see libraries. Now, one of the things I forgot to mention and I'm going to go back to Illustrator for a second here. When you drag all your elements into the library over here, it's very important that you then hit save on your document. If you don't hit save, then these will not end up being saved to the library, and then you won't see them come up in dimensions. So make sure you've saved that. And now I'm going to flip back to dimensions. And if I come over here to my libraries, if I click on dimensions test, here you can see the 3 I put in here. So here's my full front page. Here's my side panel, and here's the multiple panel. I tend to always place things one side at a time, and I'll show you why. It's a little funky here. I'm just going to grab the complete one. And what you'll notice is it kind of distorts everything. So it's kind of up to you to grab these handles and try and manipulate it in here. And one of the things when you're trying to do multiple sides at once, I just find it not really helpful. It's really hard. You can see my side. It's getting really hard to line it up. The image is getting really distorted. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that and do this one side at a time. So let's start with my front panel. I'm going to just drag this on here. And it's always going to distort it in here. The best thing to do is kind of center it on here, because then when you grab these handles, you can kind of quickly get things into shape. So it needs to go down a little bit. It's a little too wide. You can see the sides going over there. So you can see if you do it one piece at a time, it tends to be a lot faster and also a lot more accurate on here. So I've got the front placed on here. Now what I'm going to do is grab the side and just drag that over here. And again, I'm going to kind of center it in the panel here and then use these handles to get it to the approximate right size here. So again, I'm sure, I don't use dimension enough. I'm sure there's little tricks to get this in there quickly, more accurately. Going to have to zoom out here. So yeah, this shouldn't be having to go this far on here, but it is what it is. Now you'll notice it's kind of grayed out here. That's because we haven't really played with the lighting on here. Geez, got to pull this way out and pull a little bit more up here. So you'll be able to get it kind of in position here. And you'll see your artwork is over here under properties. And it's referred to, if we come up here to scene, here you can see the graphics that are in here. You can always see everything that's going on. I have a box, graphic 2, graphic 3 in here. And as we add things in here, and we adjust the lighting and the environment on here, you're going to be able to see the artwork a little bit more clearly. You'll also notice here under properties, in dimension, they refer to the artwork you put on here as decals. So just so you understand the terminology on here, and it's showing you the size on here. And you can play with the opacity on here. So I'm on that one. I'm on graphic 2 up here. You can play with the roughness on it. Probably don't want to do that. If you want to make it metallic, you could do that. We don't want to do that. So let me just take those back. So once you have your graphics on here, then we can start talking about working with the lighting. So we've got our graphics on here. I'm going to go ahead and close the library and go back to the assets panel on here too. And just, again, you can still move this around if you want to, now that we have our art on here. And you can see my placement looks like it's a little bit off on there. So just for time's sake, I'm not going to go back and redo that. And again, you can still position this in the scene wherever you want to. But I'm going to scroll down here past the materials and go to lighting. Now, there's different types of lighting. I would definitely kind of explore the different types of lighting on here and what it would look like. So here's circle light. There's more square light. And you can see the artwork is getting a little brighter now that we're adding light in here. Here's what sunlight looks like. So I'm kind of turning all of these on. There's 3-point light, but if we go back to circle light, you'll notice I'm adding all these lights up here, and obviously we don't want all those lights in here. So you can either turn them off, or I think I'm just going to delete them here if I can. So I'm selecting these lights. So every time I clicked on one, you're going to get a different lighting effect on here. So again, if I click circle light, here you can see it's added some lighting directions in there. Didn't want to do that. If you go to sunlight here, you can see it's giving you a little bit of light on the front, and it's giving you the cast shadow on here. Now, once you select lighting on here, you can adjust the relative intensity of the light. You can rotate which way the light is coming from, what direction. Something like this is going to match up a little bit similar to the demo I did in Photoshop. You can also change the height of it. Now, with sunlight, as you go higher, you can see the front of the box is getting a little dark. So you probably want to be somewhere kind of in here if you want to. Even for sunlight, you can play with the cloudiness on here. If you want to see what some of these others look like, here's what circle light looks like. And for this, I'm going to take the sunlight out, so I'm going to select it. And now I've got, we call this circle light. Same things here, only it's, basically it's just not the sun. So we can rotate this around however you want. You can lower the light, which is going to give you a really extended shadow, and it's also going to really put hot highlights on the front. So probably somewhere more in here might be the way to go. And then you can play with the relative size as far as kind of the highlight on that corner of the box up there. And so these are all options you have as far as controlling the lighting on your actual objects here. Now, once you get something that's kind of a little bright right now, let's take it down a little bit. Now, if you ever want to, one thing to understand about dimension, even though this looks pretty detailed in here, this is really a kind of rough approximation just so that you can move things quickly. And if you ever want to get an idea of what this looks like rendered, there's a button up here in the upper right hand corner. And again, if you hover over any of these, it will show you what to do. And if you click on that, it's going to give you a rough approximation of what your render is going to look like. It's probably a little bit better than the rough one we're working at. But it'll give you a more accurate look as to what this is going to look like when it's fully rendered. When I do that, I can see my highlight is really hot on there, so I might actually lower the intensity down here a little bit as well. And there you can see it's giving me a better approximation of it. The funny thing, you can probably hear it on here now. I mentioned that Dimension uses a lot of memory and computational power. And just briefly there, when I rendered this out, you could actually hear the fan on my computer kick on. So just be aware of what you're getting into when you do this. And now that we have this, and again, it's fine if you do this on a white background, but I will show you how you can put some environments in here. Now, one of the things before I show you putting environments in here, what I would recommend doing is go ahead and save this. And I'm going to save this as a dimensions file here. So let me find the class. Demos. We'll just call this box dimensions. Now we're going to save it out. We're going to render it as a Photoshop file at the end here, but it's always a good idea to make sure you save a dimensions file, because then you can go back in here. You can change the lighting if you want to. You can change the rotation on your package. You don't have to start over. If you go ahead and save this, you'll have all the pieces ready for you in there. But I do want to show you how this works with a background in here. I'm going to go ahead and just find one of these images for the background, the table. I'll double click on that. And it's going to put it in here. But here's the thing you want to do. This is never going to look right because the perspective that's in the image I put up here and the perspective of the box that I rendered do not match. So what you want to do is up here under actions, you'll see it says match image. And if you click on that, you can see now what it's doing is it is adjusting my lighting and everything to the lighting that is in this package. So now what you may find you need to do is come back here and select some of these lights and maybe lower the intensity on them here. So here the intensity is really high. And let's find my other ones here. So yeah, these lights are all really hot on here. So again, I don't know if it's going to buy you anything to put this background in here. You can try a different one in here. Here's the tabletop one. Let's see if it'll put it in there. Again, hit match image. You know, something like that might look a little bit better. You can grab your box and move it around here. Still, because of the lighting in here, you're going to have to go and make some adjustments on that as well. If you click on environment and click on some of these lights, we might have to move it up here. Let's see what we can do to brighten this up. So your mileage may vary on that. I honestly would probably be happy if you just use the white background. So I just hit revert to save on here. So it's entirely up to you. If you want to put a background on here, you can do so. If you want to find another background image. If you do want to find another background image, do go through Adobe Stock, or you can contact me about getting one from iStock Photo. As I've mentioned, I do have a budget for stock images in the class here. But if you want to just do it on a white or simple background, you can do that. So when you're ready and done, a couple things here. You're going to render this out. Here is where your memory is really going to be put to the test on whatever machine you're on. You want to come up here at the very top and it says render. And you're going to click on that. You have some options up here. It's going to give you the file dimension. I'd already saved it. That's how it has this name in here. Here's the important thing. You can do low quality or low resolution, which will render very fast. You can also do medium, and you can also do high. Now, obviously, if you're doing a portfolio piece, you're probably going to want it rendered really well. But it's going to take a while. So what I'm going to do, just to show you, I'm going to select high. You have the export formats, PSD, Photoshop document. That's what you want to do, because you'll be able to open this up in Photoshop and you won't be able to change the graphics on the box or anything, but you will be able to make some adjustments because it will save some of the masks and selections for you. So make sure you do Photoshop PSD 16-bit. And then you can figure out where you want to use it. It's got the desktop right here. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and just put it into the same folder where I put everything else. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit render. Now, this is going to take a while. So what I'm going to do is stop the recording, come back and tell you just how long it was. But I'm going to hit render here. And right now it's figuring out all the dimensions on here. It's giving you a very rough rendering of it right now. And let's see if it gives me a little bit of a time. Now, here's the deal. See where it says 1:57 seconds here? You think, oh, that's not too bad, right? That's just for a low resolution image. So you can give it a once over and decide, oh yeah, no, that's going to be fine. Or you can decide that's not at all what I want. You can hit the emergency stop X button over here. But at the end of this early render, if you like what you see, there's a little camera icon here. That'll take a screenshot. So as we work on this and you get to a point and if you run into any problems and you just want to do a quick screenshot that you can send me that I can look at, that's what you want to do. So wait till we finish off this low res render. So we've got like 14 seconds left here. And then I'm going to pause the recording and come back when it's done. I have no idea how long that's going to be. It could be a half hour, it could be an hour. I will let you know when it's done. So here we come. So this is essentially once this hits 0, this will essentially be your low res renders. So again, if you want to, you can hit screenshot here, take a snapshot, that'll put it on your desktop, and that's something you can send to me to look at. Or it's probably even low enough resolution if you have an online portfolio, but for a printed portfolio or larger images, we're going to want to wait and make sure this is completely done when it's done. Let me see what happens here when we get to the end of 8 seconds, 5, 3, 2... All right, so this is your low-res render. That's where you've got to be kidding me. It's telling me let's take a look. They have done something here. Hang on. I want to make sure that is really the full render because that doesn't seem right. Either that or I have way more memory in my computer than I thought I did. Let's find it here. Box render. That's from the other one. Box dimensions. Let's give it a shot. See what it turned out like. And we open Photoshop here. I'm sorry this is dragging out, but if I don't need to, let's see. So here, all right, that is a low-res render. So I will do, let me find out what I did. It's probably because I did 16-bit on here. When you do open these in Photoshop, you'll see you have different layers here for your materials, for your object selection. So you can actually go in here if you want and use the masks here to make any adjustments to it. I'm going to come back to dimension. So this was your low res dimension. Let's change this to 32-bit. Call this dimensions 2. And let's go ahead and hit render on here. And I will come back and let you know how long it took. So the question is, why did my first render go so quickly and the second one, which I will tell you right now, took 21 minutes. But remember too, I've got a lot of memory on my computer, so if you do a render, it's probably going to take a lot longer. But why the difference? Because here I'll show you the second render. You can see it's much higher res. On here you can read all the type and everything. And here's my initial render that I did before the break here in the video. Why did that happen? Well, I left out a very important piece of information. If I go back to dimensions here, in my rush to get the document set up, one thing I neglected to do was to change the resolution on the video. So if I come back here in dimension to document settings, so I changed it to inches at the beginning, but I totally forgot. And so the first render I did was only at 72 dpi. That's why it's as pixelated as it is, and that's why it rendered so quickly. So I'm of the belief you should render this as high res as possible so you could actually print it out and put it in a physical portfolio. And I'll put a note when I post this video that make sure when you've done this, you put the resolution up to 300. Now, once I changed it and put it up to 300, as I said, it took 21 minutes to render. If you don't have memory on your laptop or desktop maxed out, these renders can take over an hour. And so just be aware, if your machine's still humming around along, but it's been 20, 30 minutes and you think it's frozen, if you can, just walk away from it, and come back in an hour and see if it's finished rendering, because they can take quite a while to do. So again, before you quit out of Dimensions, make sure you've saved the document so you can always come back here. You can change the artwork on it. You can rotate it around however you like, change the materials on it, and you won't have to start from scratch.